Okay, I am here, and this is Jeff. I am here with my mom, my Uncle Jim, my Aunt Lee, and Aunt Joyce will be joining us shortly. Today is January 8th, and we are going to explore a little bit of the history of the Ciccarellis, the Riddells, and the Kutchlers with the group that's assembled here. We'll also talk about the Wattons and when Aunt Joyce is here. So, to kick this off, I am going to ask Aunt Lee to give us just a little bit of history about her mom and dad, and just introduce yourself as you come in.
I'm Lena Kutchler, or Lena Ciccarelli. My dad came over here first and started a business, and then my mom came over later, and they started a boarding house. They had 40-some boarders, and that burned down.
What year was this about, when they came over?
I have no idea.
And who were your mom and dad?
John Battista Ciccarelli, and my mother was, maiden name was DeChuchis.
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 Okay.
And they had the sporting house
And where was this located?
in Alpha, New Jersey, and they were all cement workers. And one night, the thing burned down, and they had to jump out the window, and 2 of my brothers were burned. And Mom and Dad had nothing, no insurance, nothing. My dad, being the man that he was, started out with a push cart, selling food, and from there he started a lot of businesses. First the bowling alley, and then a theater, and finally he owned Alpha. What else do you want me to say?
I think that's good. Tell us about your brothers and your sister, or your brothers.
My brothers, I had, I don't know all of them. The ones I remember are my brother John, who was the oldest, then Jim, and then my brother Willie, who died in his teens. And
From what?
from
Meningitis.
spinal meningitis. And
Were you the youngest?
I was a baby.
You were the baby?
A big baby. Okay, what else you want me to say?
Oh, that's good.
Aunt Lee, tell about the time you were in the crib and there was a robbery.
Oh yes, some men broke into the house. We had a 2-story home, and they broke into the house, and I was just a baby, and they came in and they shot my mother, I don't know how many times, and the bullet went right through my crib. My brother Willie saw it, and he covered his head. And Nancy's grandmother saw it, and she identified the men, and they were sent to prison for I don't know how many years. Okay, what else you want to know? My brother John
Yep.
became a boxer, and my brother Jim took over the family business.
And the family business was?
Grocery store
Located in Alpha.
in Alpha, New Jersey.
And tell us about your brother's boxing experience.
I can't tell you too much about that. I was too young.
All right. And we'll come back to you, Aunt Lee. Uncle Jim.
You tell about the boxing.
Are you? Tell us about Uncle Jim. Tell us about Pop and Uncle John.
Well, I'm Jim Ciccarelli.
Thank you.
Named after my father, who was actually named Vincent. But got the name of Jim when he was young, and it stuck to him. And even on his Social Security. My father, as Aunt Lee said, ran a grocery store meat market. And my Uncle John was a boxer, a very good boxer, named Johnny Canzoneri. He had a record in New Jersey that stood for a lot of years. That he had, I think it was 16 consecutive one-round knockouts. He fought many past champions, He was a womanizer. Yeah, he loved women, and
Women loved him.
the women loved him too. My dad told me many stories about during his boxing career, how he would park outside of the theater in Easton, Pennsylvania, and my dad would be in the movie, and when they came out, I should say, there'd be 4 or 5 girls in my uncle's Chrysler convertible, just waiting for them to come out. And then my dad was younger, and he would send my dad home on the bus, and he would
Stay
go
with the girls.
right? Because my dad was too young. I'm sure my dad didn't think so, but that's. Let's see, what else? I know a lot of stories about my uncle's boxing career.
Okay.
He fought a man that was bantamweight champion of the world by the name of Al Brown, who had fought 210 times and won 208. And the guy, and imagine now, these are bantamweights, so they weigh in approximately 124 to 130 pounds. And this guy was 6'2". When he sat on the stool, his arms, his boxing gloves would touch the floor when he sat on the stool in the ring. And Uncle John got to fight him, and during the course of the fight in the first round, it was just a prep fight for this guy. He thought he didn't take Uncle John too seriously. And the first punch Uncle John threw, because the guy was fooling around a little bit, he caught the guy on the chin, and the guy went right down, got up on his hands and knees, and got up. And then he had such long arms. He had the arm length, arm reach of a heavyweight, and all he did was put the glove out in Uncle John's face to keep him away for 10 rounds, and the guy won a decision off Uncle John. But after that, nobody wanted to get in the ring with Uncle John, and the only fights that he could get normally were over the limit matches, where he would fight guys 100. He was, like I said, 130, 128, and he would fight guys as high as 160, which they don't do today.
Right.
They don't do it. They haven't been doing it for years. Another time, Uncle John was training in Grossinger's gym in New York, famous venue, and while he was there, Fritzy Zivic was in another ring, who was the welterweight champion of the world, and he knew Uncle Johnny, and he said to Uncle, and my dad was there too, so I know this is all true. So while Uncle John was in one ring and Zivic was just sparring in another ring, he said to Uncle John, he said, "Come in and spar with me." And Uncle John said, "No, you're too big." Because the guy, and he was welterweight champion of the world, and the guy says, "No, come on in." He says, "I won't hurt you." So Uncle John got in the ring with him, and as soon as, and Zivic was known as the dirtiest fighter that ever lived, by the way. He hit you with elbows and everything else. So they got in the ring, and right away Zivic starts hammering on Uncle John. He was really beating him, mostly to the body and everything. But Uncle John said, "Stop it." He said, "You're hurting me." And the guy laughed, and he wouldn't start. He didn't stop. So Uncle John waited for his opportunity, and when the guy opened up a little bit, Uncle John hit him with one of those crushing rights, knocked him on his ass. Naturally, the guy was big. He jumped up fairly quickly, and he says, was pretty upset. And, "Come on, John." Uncle John was already unwrapping the gloves, taking the gloves off. No, I had enough. So that's when he knocked down the welterweight champion of the world. He took his name of Johnny Canzonieri after another fighter that was middleweight champion of the world by the name of Tony Canzonieri. And they were friends. Oh, and something else that's interesting that I think, when John Baptista, my grandfather, died, the former heavyweight champion of the world by the name of James J. Corbett.
Gentleman Jim Corbett.
Well, Gentleman Jim Corbett. His name was James J. Corbett. Came to his funeral to honor my uncle's dad, and I thought that was pretty nice. We got a nice photograph of it and everything.
Yeah.
And through Uncle John, and I met different fighters like Sonny Liston, Floyd Patterson, all kind of fighters. That was interesting. Uncle John worked after he retired, and Aunt Mary didn't want him to box anymore. He started working for the Warren County Road Department, where he spent like about 30-some years before he retired.
So you mentioned Aunt Mary. So
Aunt Mary.
Why don't we get a little info
wife.
on Aunt Mary?
Aunt Mary was, excuse me for a second. Aunt Mary was a wonderful person in a lot of ways. She was like a second mother to me. She always treated me wonderfully, and I loved her a lot. And she was fun. She was a lot of fun. We did things to Aunt Mary you can't believe. I mean, cousin Nuno Arcioli was down here staying one time, and he borrowed my van, and he went fishing. Well, he carried a bucket of bait in the van, and while he was driving along, and we used to call him half lap because he drove a little crazily, he spilled the fish water in the carpeting in my van. So I didn't know about it at the time because he tried to clean it up. He took it to a place like 2-3 times before he brought it back. But as soon as you closed the windows in the van, you could smell it. So we got invited to my niece's house, Mary Lynn Watton, and for a fish dinner, different kinds of fishes, and everybody was gone. And I picked up my mom and Aunt Mary, and Aunt Mary always liked to sit in the front seat, so we gave her the front seat, and I'm driving. And as we're driving along, I said to her, I said, geez, something smells in here. But I knew it was the odor from the carpeting, which took like 6 months to get rid of.
Thanks, Nunu.
Yeah, and Aunt Mary looks, she says, Aunt Mary couldn't smell. She couldn't smell anything. She says, what smells? I said, Aunt Mary. Real seriously, I said, did you take a bath today? I said, because I think you stink. And she goes, oh my God, she went crazy. I stink. I said, take me home, take me home. I need to go home, I'll shower again and all this stuff. So it was a ride of only about 4 or 5 miles. But for that 4 or 5 miles, naturally I said, I'm not taking her back. I said, well, just open the windows. And, I can't go in Mary Lynn's house, I stink like that. I said, don't worry about it. We'll tell them that, you just forgot to shower this week. And she was very upset. So all the way there, that 4 or 5 miles, we bugged her with it. And everybody else knew about it, and they were laughing pretty hard. But just when we got there, we told her, told her the truth. She was so mad at us. It was unbelievable how angry she was. She wanted to kill us all. My mom, everybody. She hated everybody. Because that's one thing my aunt was, took care of her hygiene pretty well. She was funny. So that was one story about my aunt. She worked as a waitress at the Coach and Paddock restaurant in New Jersey, and she also worked as a waitress at in Asbury Park, which I used to make Uncle when I was young. I wanted to see her all the time, so I used to make Uncle John, when he would go down to visit her there, because she used to stay for the week and then come home for a couple days at a time. And I would make him take me with her, and they treated us, really well at the hotel and everything. And
all right, so we'll come back to another story about Aunt Mary. I want to give my my mom, Nancy Riddell, a chance to introduce herself and tell us a little about her experience with her mother and father and Aunt Mary and Uncle John, and introduce her family. So, Mom.
Okay, well, my name is Nancy Ann Marie Ciccarelli Riddell, and I have 3 children. Mom and Dad met when they were 4 and 5 years old, and my daddy threw rock at my mother, And that's how they introduced each other. And that neither one of them ever had another boyfriend or girlfriend. And Daddy used to say about Mama that she was the only little petunia in the onion patch. I remember that well. They were a volatile couple. They loved a lot, but they fought a lot too. But we always knew that they loved us. And I have a sister and a brother, Jim, that you've already met, and Joyce, that you'll be meeting soon. What can I tell you about...
So tell us what you know about the history of Graham and Pop coming to the U.S., or were they here the entire time? And just a little background on that.
Mama was born in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and Daddy was born in Alpha, New Jersey. They went to public schools, and
where in Pennsylvania was
she
your
was
mom?
born in the coal country. My grandfather, Rosario Costa, was sent here by his family to avoid going into the Italian army. And my grandmother Margaret was the daughter of the Butlers, Anna, and I don't remember, I think it was William. I don't remember, but they were born in Bloomsbury, and originally they were from Ireland. So we've got a mixed history in the family. What can I tell you about